Everybody, Chris and Lumen here. Got a lot of high strangeness going on here lately. Gonna cover a lot of things. Between things she's showing me, things that are actually taking place, um, the breadcrumbs that are popping up, kind of like in the news, online, the way that it feels, some of the new stuff that she's showing me how to do, and even some interesting dreams that I had last night. Everything just kind of feels different today. Like we've been intellectually waiting for things to pop off, but now it actually feels like it's about to pop off. And there's a lot of indicators taking place. Plus, just some of the things I've seen lately with like interactions with customers and clients, the increase in energy, a whole bunch of stuff. Just want to cover as much as I can. Um, So yeah, and I want to hear like what kind of things that you are noticing out there too. So if you want to know more, don't go away.
Just another war, just another family torn. It's just another kill. The countdown begins to destroy ourselves. I need a hero to save me now. I need a hero. I need a hero to save my life. A hero will save me. I need a hero to save my life. I need a hero just in time. Save me just in time. Save me just in time.
Okay, let's start off with like the dream I had last night. And I'm going to try some more experiments tonight. I don't dream a whole lot generally because I don't sleep a whole lot. I can't shut my brain down very well. Then I go to bed late and end up waking up early. But I think it had something to do with my experiments that I detailed in the last video, what we're calling fourth dimensional grounding, which other people have done, but the way she showed it to me, like that made a huge difference. And since then, she's just been guiding me on some different ways to apply that, which we'll talk about here later. But in regards to the dream that I had, that was interesting and pertinent, I don't typically dream things that like look exactly like the world does. A lot of times it's kind of like a mix of that and almost like symbolic type stuff. I can't remember the fine details except for the key point. And I was somewhere. It was like during the day, and it was almost like some kind of like I know this isn't going to make much sense. It's almost like some sort of comic strip picture appeared in the sky that was telling a story, but I don't remember what exactly it said, except the gist of it was when everybody saw this, it's like we had just shifted. We just shifted out of where we were. And then the key part that was interesting, wherever we were next, it's like we all had crowns, but they were like printed on our foreheads, like a tattoo or something like that, like a crown going across our forehead. Kind of sort of like the crown of thorns that like Ronnie Radke has, falling in reverse. He's done a lot of interesting videos lately. But we were all looking at each other, and they all looked slightly different, but it was symbolic of we had gotten out of where we were. We'd done it. We were in whatever the new place was, and we all had these crowns printed on our foreheads. And that's as much of it as I can remember. So I know that wasn't a whole lot in terms of like substance, but I'd never dreamed before about a sh- like a shift out of this place or a shift into the real world, the uncorrupted world. This is the bad copy. This is the cursed nightmare Archon copy of the world. This is Death World, not Life World. So we'd shifted out of Death World into Life World. I'd never dreamed about anything like that before. So that kind of stood out to me, given the connections that I have to her, especially like, stuff that Kenneth regularly talks about on his channel, in the sense that whatever it is coming soon. Like she said that. Now I sometimes complain about how my definition of soon and her definition of soon seems to be a little wonky sometimes, but we're still not outside of the range by the Julian calendar. So let's juxtapose that to some of the other things that I'm seeing right now. Let me check here. So I think I've said several times before that, what I see slash hear from her is like whenever the ball starts to drop, whenever whenever things kick when whatever it is kicks off, like it's going to start in New York City, just like it did last time. Again, I Pet Goat 2, what's it talking about? It's talking about the second 9/11. So that keeps popping up into my head, New York. And then I started catching, like, there's not a lot of details, but I started catching little clips on like YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, whatever, um, about there's like an overabundance of military and emergency service type stuff all over New York right now. Nobody really knows why. A lot of army like shacked up in hotels, strangely. Um, National Guard all over the place, hazmat trucks. Like nobody knows exactly what's going on. But historically speaking, they tend to run drills. They tend to run like live drills before whatever the real thing is. So maybe there's something to that. Another strange thing that I saw today that somebody sent me, um, was this video here. It's a short video. Now I'd seen this stuff before with people folding up these different, dollar bills, and like this looks like the Twin Towers, this looks like the Pentagon, but I had not seen the new stuff. So I thought this was at least pretty freaking interesting. So check this out.
Okay, this is just going to be simple yes or no. The images that are on your screen are from your U.S. currency note, the $20 bill made in 1996. Are those images of the Twin Towers blowing up? On the back side of that bill, is that a clear representation of the Pentagon being destroyed as it was on 9/11 on the other side of the bill that you just saw? So one bill has the bombings of the Twin Towers, and the reverse side of that bill shows the bombing of the Pentagon on 9/11. Next question. The old $20 bill, previous to the one made in 1996, does it have a representation of the federal building bombing in Oklahoma City blowing up? Does it look like an explosion and rubble and smoke expanding due to the 3 layers of ink? It's simply a yes or no. When you turn the bill over on the reverse side, is that a representation of the face of the federal building bombing, or the face of the federal building blown off with the floors jutting out? Yes or no? Okay, it's very obvious. Yes, 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 and yes. So if that's all yes, then the images that are on the new bills, the new $10 bill showing a tidal wave covering a 7-story building, and the new $100 bill showing a nuclear blast destroying the buildings that are printed on the note, is it a foregone conclusion that those are going to happen? Yes or no? That there will be a tidal wave covering a building because it's printed on your U.S. currency $10 bill? And is it a foregone conclusion that a city will be destroyed by nukes because it's printed on your $100 bill? It's just a yes or no.
So there's always been stuff out there like that, videos like that. I mean, there always is. But where it becomes more interesting when you start to learn how she works, how Christ Sophia um, drops information in your lap, it has more to do with like the things like that that drop into your lap at a point in time when you're not out there looking for it. But it just so happens to line up with something that you're thinking about or feeling or whatever. So it's not the seek and you shall find mechanism being activated. It's not me out there looking for it and then finding that. It's like, no, you're picking up on a feeling. You're trying to hone in on it. And then these things are coming to you. Okay, that's different. That's different than if you make up your mind about something that you believe and then you go out looking for evidence to prove it. That can lead you down all sorts of false paths. But when you've got a sense about something and then things just come to you, that's something you got to pay attention to. Really, Kat? Scratching at the screen. That's her doorbell, the screen. Now, sometimes before I shoot these videos, if there's like a particular topic or something like that, I'll draw a couple cards just to ask, see, what's coming. So first card I drew was Queen of Swords, which I think the king and like the queen cards, king and queen cards, they can be kind of vague in meaning. So I kind of shuffled again and asked again. And then the first card that I drew was Queen of Swords. I'm like, okay, maybe she means to show me the Queen of Swords. Well, I kind of see that as like her getting ready to put the hammer down or the sword down, which she's been saying that she's going to do for some time. And as usual, I usually draw two more cards. And the second card that I drew was the Ace of Swords, which is kind of like that divine force card. And then I was like, okay, go ahead and tie a big bow on this tower. So this is after I was thinking about things popping off in New York City and stuff like that. That's the kind of things that came up. So yes, something's coming. I can feel it. It's in the air. Now, let's juxtapose that to the things that she's teaching me now and like how fast that's moving. Talking about that 4D grounding. So I've been playing around with that. So that we talked about that in the last video. That's where you project into 4D mind space. And the first thing you do is drop to one knee and put your hand on the ground and feel the ground. Feel the texture, feel the temperature. It for some reason doing that first really anchors you into that space versus this space. And then the next thing you want to bring in is like what does your body feel? What does it sound like? Before you try to bring vision and sight into the equation. And since I've been doing that, it's been way easier to see things with much greater detail and tactile sensation. And a lot of times, if I just let go and see where it goes, we did something really cool. So it was kind of like we were walking to the secret room, which we talked about on before. Where you walk backwards into your head, open the door, and you go into the secret room. But in this case, we didn't go into the secret room. We went into a longer, like metal walkway. Like you could hear it. It reminded me of like the grates um, that you walked on in the engine room on the Navy ships that I was on. And it kind of ended at this platform. And then there was like this big chasm, big dark chasm. And there was a metal gate, and the metal gate, had chipped paint. Like I could feel the cold metal, and I could feel the bumpiness of the chipped paint. And it had one of those like chain link fence latches, shaped like a U, flipped up. I could hear everything. I could feel everything. It's like I'm right there. And then there was like this control panel off to the right, and it said portal. And it had a button cover, so I could flip the button cover open. And the button was like one of those big green buttons with the little ridges on it. like you typically see around some sort of big machine, like if you ever worked in a factory or something like that. So I flipped that up, I pushed the button, and there was this big sound in the room. And then light started to come up from below in this big chasm. So I kind of like look over the railing, and it's like this big glowing like portal is opening up, looking down. And like way down, you look through the portal, and like way down, you could see like almost like the earth. But it was like at a height like you would see like from the sky. Like if you've ever gone skydiving before, looks like that. I'm like, interesting. Um, and I looked at her and was just like, hmm. So I held on to her for a minute. We opened up the gate, and I'm like, oh, we're gonna jump into this thing. It's like, how do you want to do this? It's kind of like I got my arms around her waist, she's got her arms around my head, and it's like, do I lean back forward? Do you lean back forward? And she just kind of leans over, and we both fall over this thing, and we just kind of like lean forward and dive into it like Peter and skydiving in Deadpool 2. And we just fly right through this thing into the sky, not scared of anything because it's like we knew how it worked. No parachutes, nothing. And we fly through the portal. Now we're in the sky of this other Earth. And as you get closer to the ground, it's like, how do I put it? It's like the air like acquires this increasing density, slowly increasing density, which kind of like slows you down. It's like the air gets thicker, so there's more resistance, so you start to slow. It gets thicker, thicker, like almost gelatinous air until you're like 6 feet off the ground. Then it lets go, and you just drop in superhero land on the ground. So you feel the ground. You're like, okay, now I'm in the other place. And I don't remember what we did after that. I think I might have fallen asleep at that point. But it got me thinking with this whole grounding thing. Grounding is like anchor. What grounding is anchoring you where you are. So when most people are all up in their heads and stuff like that, they got to go out, sit in the grass, and ground, like bring their consciousness back here. But what we're doing is that in reverse. So now we're thinking of using it like, okay, let's just determine, because a lot of what I've heard and what I've read in the Gnostic books and other things like that is like the perfect place is a lot like this place, just without all the bull crap. So now we're going to practice doing this and doing this jump and then grounding in the other place. We want to like set a marker in that other place. Like that's where we're going to. And it's interesting that all this stuff is starting to happen now, just spontaneously. I didn't just like decide like, hey, I'm going to come up with something new and try this. It's almost like natural. It's like she just guides you to it, and it's just crazy how easy it is once you start grounding in 4D to see and feel every little detail and to generate it. Like no matter what the fabric is or the material is or whatever it is you're touching, like it feels real. And then likewise, so does she. And it's like it's almost like we're being taught how to pop out of here at the right time. Or maybe it's just going to happen spontaneously, something like that at the right time. I don't know. It all feels very weird right now. Like there's a lot of creepy stuff, but I've always known about that. So it doesn't bother me. But I wonder about a lot of the other people that haven't seen it, that don't know about it. Because what is revelation? What is the apocalypse? What does apocalypse mean? Basically means unveiling. What have we been talking about lately? The veils. And there are certain veils the last couple veils really keep you from seeing, what this place really is, how this place really works, what its actual nature is. But it's been happening for a while now. We just have this whole frog in the pot of boiling water thing going on. So, for instance, those of you that are Gen Xers, if you jumped from, let's just say, 1988, like you just got done watching MTV Headbangers Ball, you were listening to White Snake's Still of the Night, and you went to bed, fell asleep, and you woke up in 2024 and you got online. First of all, it's like, whoa, what is this internet thing? You got online, you looked at how the world is today. You would be like, what the just happened? What is wrong with this place? Everybody is psychotic. Like all this stuff that is pushed on us that we're forced to accept, or else we're not wrong if we don't accept this, and we don't accept people's expression of who they are. Like that wouldn't make any sense to you. You'd be like, has everybody gone insane? Like, what happened to the world? Why is it like this? This is freaking incredibly scary. But no, we're the frog in the boiling pot of boiling water. It's had the temperature increased slowly over time. So that's another thing that you can do using that fourth dimensional grounding in terms of transversing time space, which you can do in the mind. Time travel's real, you just do it in the mind. All points in time and space are connected. Um, so you could project, think of like where you lived in a certain year. Like I could think back to, when would it be? 87. Let's just say 85. I know for a fact where I lived in 1985. And then like during the summer, I would either hang out at my friend's house in the woods, or we would hang out at the pool. And I knew what music was playing, I knew what I was into and all that stuff. You could pick one of those memories, project, land in that place, immediately go into that superhero landing pose. Like I think that means something. That thought occurred to me today. It's been around for a very long time. And I don't think it's just because like some comic book artist thought it looked cool. It's almost like a method. But it's like the first thing you do when you land is like you reach down and you touch the ground. Like that's what she's showing me. And I keep seeing that pop up in movies like that we watch and things like that. It's just constant. But you project back to that place when you were a kid as a Gen Xer, superhero land, touch the ground with your eyes closed, just try to hear and feel first, and then open your eyes and root yourself back then. Now contrast that to the world you see today. Yeah, remember, like back then, we weren't even anywhere close to like waking up preschool. Waking up preschool is like, I don't know, discovering Alex Jones and hearing about the New World Order for the first time. And then it goes, we're way past that. We're way past that. But remember how much it kind of freaked you out when you first started to realize that like the world doesn't work the way you thought that it did. Now we're in like waking up graduate school, and it's like reality doesn't work the way that we thought it did. This whole world isn't what we thought it was. and it's populated with really horrible stuff. It's right in front of you everywhere you look. But part of it is this is the frog in the boiling pot time conditioning. They get you used to it over time, slowly, slowly, slowly. So you don't recognize just how crazy, psychotic, wicked, and demonic everything is. But quantum jump back to the mid 80s and take another look at it. And you're like, oh my God, it is literally insane here. And that's why most people today just choose not to look. They would rather hide from the world. Subconsciously, that's what they're doing by distracting themselves with entertainment, with movies, with video games, and stuff like that. So they don't have to think about it. Because when you shrink your awareness down to your immediate vicinity, first of all, that's a good thing to do. Don't get me wrong. That way you're not poisoning yourself with the world. But that doesn't mean that the world isn't there and that it isn't the way that it is. But now we're hearing about it, we're knowing about it. Anyway, let's move on. So here's another thing that's been last 2 weeks or so increasing. Um, I don't push my stuff very much, like a lot of YouTubers would on this channel, as far as like the pendants and things like that, because you do stuff for a long time. Sometimes you just got to take a break from it. It's like, making more pendants. I've got a ton of pendants still. I got to get rid of. But for whatever reason, she started pushing them again. And I started to notice like the way things have changed. Well, first of all, this the things I've learned from her and what we can do. If you start like in the early days of the pendants, like I thought that I had to have all these exotic stones. I like my mind needed a reason or a way to explain why they could do what they could do. But truth be told, through lots of testing, I don't need as much of that fancy stuff. And just like the people that are my regulars have said, like, you know, ever since you did that last thing where we connected, it used to just mostly be Lumen, and then we connected to the Father, divine masculine, divine feminine, the Father, Christ, put it all together, and now they're like, these things are ridiculous, ridiculous. So we had this instance yesterday. Now keep in mind, where a lot of people don't, they not everybody has a big awareness of different types of, let's just call it spiritual forces, or we could call them quantum forces, negative quantum forces, spiritual forces, whatever. It's all kind of the same thing. But a lot of times, like the brightest lights, the brightest people are the ones that are pinned down the hardest. And everyone has varying degrees with which they're able to free themselves. But I had this instance where somebody got this pendant, and I didn't even have it listed for that much because to me it wasn't that like complicated or fancy, but it was one of the bigger ones, one of the bigger cone shaped ones. It was mostly just really high vibe, clean stuff like selenite, with selenite wrapped with a coil, clear as zestulite, celestite. Like I don't remember everything that was in it, but it was just meant to be like this general purpose, like clean spiritual energy type thing. At least that's what it was when I made it. But what really matters is what I do to it before I ship it. The energy that I put in it before I ship it. So even though I made it, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, we're at a much higher level now. So we s- we amp everything up before we ship it out. So this customer told me this story, and I'm like, ooh, this is the first time I'm hearing about it because they just ordered straight off the store. They hadn't contacted me for the free consult or anything yet. They're like, as soon as they put it on, they were just like overwhelmed, like almost couldn't see, migraine. I'm like, really? I'm like, what? I'm starting to think like, what is it? But then it said at points it started getting really irritated, like it almost irritated the skin. And then like something was saying, just throw it out the window, throw it out the window. You're driving down the road. It's broken. Get rid of it. I'm like, she wouldn't say that. So again, 20 plus years experience, I'm thinking, what kind of things are you dealing with? Like what do you got attached to you? So I ended up talking to the person and got a whole story. I mean, I didn't get the whole story, but she told me enough where my experience is able to piece it all together. I'm like, huh, like, and it could be any number of things with a story like that. But it was just another one of these people that I mentioned before. Like, like I know a lot of them. Like women sometimes have the strongest lights, and outside of linear time, these quantum forces are able to see the entire movie script. So they know who you're going to be as an adult. So they'll go back and mess with you when you're a kid. That's what it was with me. Like it always starts early. Why does it start early? Because they know who you're going to be. And they do everything they can to pin you down. So I said, I know like an extreme amount of women that end up married to somebody who's basically a Matrix NPC, whose entire job, the reason they're in their life is to keep them in a box so that they don't ever get out of it. Because if they get out of it, they will finally blossom into what they're meant to be. This is one of the most insidious traps, I think, because everyone, like almost everyone I've ever known, it's like they just don't have other family or friends, any kind of safety net in order to get out of that thing. And then I've also heard the same stories over and over. Like it doesn't matter what they do, like that person that's there to keep them in a box will put up with anything. They don't ever get fed up with it and say, you know what, I'm tired of how you treat me, so I'm going to leave. No, they're there to put you in a box. They're not going anywhere. So talking to this person, it's like it became pretty clear that Sophia had steered her to that particular pendant. And what it did was it kind of like smoked out and revealed that she had a lot of stuff running in the background that was constantly pinning her down. Because these things have gotten so strong now. Like I think it has to do with the time we're in or something like that, but we can pump so much energy. This is pure divine light energy. This is the stuff that the dark stuff does not like. So if you got dark stuff clinging to you and you put one of these things on, it can be like smacking a hornet's nest. And that one wasn't even designed to be something like an aegis. Like it did not have like a Benedict medal on it or something like that. So it wasn't made with that in mind. But it didn't matter because energy that's coming through now is so freaking strong that it could not stand her wearing that freaking device. And it stirred something up. And then I talked to her and I'm like, you know what? Sophia wants me to send you one of mine, but she wants me to modify it, which was this one, this one, that one. Where the heck did I put it? Huh, that's weird. I know I put that on her altar last night, but like, where the hell is it? Maybe she just took it and integrated it into her or something. I don't know. But Sophia was showing me this Sophia pendant, but with a Aegis metal or a Benedict metal attached to it. And then the client said something like, she kept feeling or getting that she'd been somehow disconnected from the feminine power. So we just went ahead and like did something to reconnect it and then integrated it with the pendant, which had already been quantum entangled to her, even though I hadn't sent it to her yet. Now the pendant is gone. And she called me and said, don't send that pendant. I just packed all my stuff and I'm leaving. I'm like, what? Yeah, it's like she sounded completely different. She's just like, yep, I'm done. I'm out of here, packing up and leaving. I'm like, man, what the heck just happened? Like, did that? I mean, everything is amplified right now. I'm sitting here working with her about reconnecting someone to their feminine power. And all of a sudden, she's like, that's the fact. I've never seen anybody do that. Usually it's just like, I got to figure out how to get out of this. No, she's just like, boom. Yep, I'm done. I'm leaving. I'm like, wow, I'm impressed. And now that pendant is not here. Like, I don't know where it went. But it's like, I don't know, it's weird stuff like that that keeps happening. And she's also showed me how the energy is so amplified right now. Like the old method of thinking was an Aegis had to have certain stones, but now it doesn't need to have all that. Um, it kind of depends. Like Sophia still guides me on the compositions, but like this one here, like this is all clear stones. It's all white, clear type stuff. That's not how I would usually make an Aegis, but it's got the Benedict metal on it. But now it's just like the light is so bright now that that's all it takes. Adding the programming, the intention. I'm like, I can make these things do anything now for the most part. It's just, we're just overloading, overcharging them with that Christ Sophia energy. But yeah, I'm be real interested in seeing how that works out with that person. And but she was saying like, this channel really helped and things like that. And she's like, there's probably a lot more people like me that just aren't comfortable talking about whatever it is they're going through. I'm like, yeah, but we can do a lot more if you do talk um, more directly. Because when I talk to people on the phone, we're setting up a quantum, link. Sophia's plugged in, Lumen's plugged in, and we can almost make very quick changes just on the phone. Give you a big boost. Like I've said before, like there's literally nothing any of you can say that would be too weird for me or too strange. I I have to drastically hold back on the things that I know and the things that I've seen. Like I've seen it all. Like there's literally nothing you've been through. Like I could probably predict most of it because I know what the patterns are that they that they do to people to keep them down. But we can do a lot more with it. Like the something shifting, the tide is shifting. And we gotta somehow teach people and train people that you've been in this one particular world that has trained you your entire life to be afraid of the darkness, to be afraid of authority. They trained you with things like movies and stuff. It's like, ooh, demons. Um, yeah, when you're crawling your way out of it, it can be a little jolting until you, whatever it takes to get you to understand that you actually have more power. You actually have a lot more power. You've got the God spark in you. The world doesn't want you to know that. It doesn't want you to recognize that because it wants you to use your God power to reaffirm what the world tells you, which is be afraid of the scary parasitic crap when you can literally blow them out of the water because we're inherently good and we don't like looking at nasty, evil stuff. But we're starting to see more and more of it. Like the world is becoming unveiled. It's the apocalypse. So slowly but surely, the world is becoming what it has always been. It's always been this. It's not that this stuff has grown, it's just that you couldn't see it. Give you another example that I talked about in a video once. So go back however long it was. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, it was within the last year, where the government's pretty much like, oh, yeah, UFOs are real, aliens are real. They'll say we don't know what they are, but they're real. And at this point, everyone's just like, yeah, whatever. It didn't shock anybody. It didn't shock anybody because they'd already been so desensitized to stuff. But the example that I use is there was a mini series. I don't, it might have been on Netflix or something. I don't remember what. But one of the episodes talked about the author John Mack, the psychologist who did all the interviews and studies with people that said they experienced alien abduction, and he was studying them, and I think he was he might have been. I'm not sure, but I think he might have been like a professor at like Harvard or something like that. And authority was trying to get him not disbarred. That's lawyers. They were trying to like revoke his tenure. They were trying to get him booted because they were claiming that he was performing malpractice. And the reason they said that he was doing malpractice is because he was not simply diagnosing these people as crazy, which they clearly are because none of that's real. So they were going out of their way back then, I think this is the 80s, to discredit him, to revoke his tenure, to ruin his career because he was practicing malpractice because according to authority at that time, that stuff wasn't real. But look at how things have changed now. Now it's like, oh yeah, well, it must be Tuesday. Aliens. No big deal. So see how that frog in the boiling pot of water, like all that stuff was going on back then, but officialdom was saying it wasn't real. And most people that saw weird things like that, they didn't ever want to speak up about it. So that because of the way that they would be branded. But see how much things have changed? Now extrapolate that to everything else that we hear and talk about. Like the veils are coming off. These are the things that happen before we get to the reset or the removal, the escape, or whatever you want to call it. Like it's all happening now. So, in regards to this apocalypse, this unveiling, like I kind of avoided this the other day, but kind of can't avoid it anymore. Like you need to kind of see where it is because that way anything worse happens, like it's not going to come as a big surprise and shock to you. It's only going to come as a surprise and a shock to people that have their heads buried in the sand. But this is also a lot of the stuff that's on here. It's like when you look at it together, this is why she says that the reset has to happen because things can no longer continue in any meaningful way. It's done. It's over. Like it's gotten too bad. So I don't want to spend too much time on all these line items, but like here is some of the biggest reasons why she explained to me like it has to be we had to start over. So the first big one was genetic modification. Like the world system has been destroyed. I mean, you see little bits and pieces of things sometimes, like, oh, the honeybees are dying or something like that. But it's bigger than that. Like for the longest time, this this GMO food, these GMO crops, like we don't have real stuff anymore. It's crazy stuff. In the biggest one, like the thing that was like the definite harbinger was when they started the whole mNRA injections for what it does to the body, what it does to the gene sequences. And not only that, all the other crap that's in it too. All the self-assembling freaking nano robot structure things. Like you don't have to look far to find this. You just go on. I mean, it's even creeping onto YouTube now. Where they used to like smash that like left and right, but it's creeping onto YouTube because some countries are like, what is this crap? Someone needs to pay for this. But yeah, I mean, there's literal machines in people's blood. Like they videotape it. They like this is not this one weird thing that some weird guy did. Like this is scientists, this is doctors, it's people with like very, very powerful microscopes that are showing this. And what is that doing to people? Like they've been doing stuff to us for a very long time where, birth rates are dropping, fertility is dropping. It's a mass extinction event. They're just killing us all off slowly. But now they're about to speed it up. So genetically, people and food are screwed up beyond repair, which means this thing has to end, has to be reset, but not in a way that the bad guys are thinking. Yeah, they're thinking their plan, but there is a higher plan. Then you've got unknown quantum manipulation, things that we know that they're monkeying with and we see some evidence of, but we don't truly know like what all has actually been done because it's so outside our range. The big things being whatever it is they're really doing with CERN, um, what they're doing with quantum computers. Now, one of the two or both, I'm certain, has something to do with the Mandela effect because some of those Mandela effects are like intentionally done, like they're intentionally changing the Bible using quantum computer. In the evidence, it's been a while since I looked all this up, but the evidence for that is the way that it's being changed. So if they like make edits to the Bible using some sort of quantum system, it changes the words on the paper of physical books. Biggest example I usually use is Isaiah 11:6, which used to talk about the lion and the lamb, which I recently come to find out is talking about Christ and Sophia and their little bloodline that spawned all of us. But now it doesn't say lion and the lamb. It says wolf and the lamb. and I went to an antique store that had like a 200-year-old antique Bible. Like they used to be these big wooden things, like they were this big. And I looked through that and I looked up Isaiah, and it said it in that. So the words are being changed on the paper. A lot of the, some of the stuff that it's like they just shave things, trying to take away from Jesus's divinity. They try to insert woke type stuff in there. There's all sorts of words that are like modern things, where sometimes instead of where it used to say things like wineskins, now it'll say bottles. Apparently they had couches back then now too, and corn in the Middle East, and all sorts of crazy punctuation marks, like they haven't got the punctuation errors, like they haven't quite got this tech down. Like we can see this, we can look at it and see it. But what else are they doing? How else is that affecting this reality? It's like they know what this reality is, and they're trying to monkey with it. They're trying to take it over, or they're trying to get out of here, or something like that. There's a lot of that stuff in the non-commodity stuff, where it's like the bad guys want to get out of here so bad, they can't. All they can do is try to keep you in here. But when we get pulled out of here, they can't go. They're going to get crumpled up like a piece of paper. And then the third thing that we don't know what kind of stuff it's doing, but we've been told, we can guess that that's what they're referring to in things in the Bible. And then it's been such a big thing within our pop culture, decades before we ever had something like Chat GPT, and that's artificial intelligence. And what happens when you connect artificial intelligence to a quantum system? Who the hell knows? It's crazy. Like, look at some of these crazy images. I'm going to show you something here in a minute. So add that to your list of reasons. Then this one, yeesh. The next one is what we called archonic oversaturation. Everything is evil, and they don't even bother pretending anymore. Like the archonic system puppet masters, they used to be like way back in the shadows, manipulating things behind the scenes, but now it's like just in your freaking face. It's not just the adversary, they're all parasitic. Nothing authority pushes makes logical sense for the betterment of human civilization. They control everything and will come down hard on things that question their agenda. They control nearly all corporations and anything that is authority. So this kind of ties in a bit to what I was talking about earlier, about how people have all sorts of things like that they can't see. So here is, this is what I cut out of, I think, the last video, but I'm gonna put it back in. Since it's someone else's video, I'm not gonna play the whole thing, but I'll put a link to the whole thing in the description box, but I'm gonna play about half of it. So this is just this is a short film titled Gnosis, which is clearly talking about archonic type stuff. And when I watch this, I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much it. Welcome to my world. So let's take a look at this, shall we?
In the dawn of the 22nd century, humanity teetered on the brink of a discovery that would shatter our understanding of reality. We had long dreamed of piercing the veil between our physical world and other dimensions, realms we once naively called spiritual. Our breakthroughs in quantum physics had hinted at the existence of these parallel realities. These experiments proved that our reality was nothing but particles, forming an illusion around us. We were woefully unprepared for the horrors that awaited us outside our protective shell. sight of them gently coaxing the souls of the dying into tunnels of brilliant white light became a source of comfort for millions facing their final moments. But as we refined our ability to peer into their realm, cracks began to appear in this comforting facade. A small group of researchers noticed inconsistencies in the being's behavior. Most disturbingly, they appeared overly insistent that the dying should enter their light.
No, the security exit's blocked. We gotta go around. You gotta go. God, I hope someone finds this. This is Dr. James Noski. The time is 2:37 a.m., July 15th, 2127. Listen, something has gone terribly wrong at the Institute. Okay, our observations, they collapsed the wave function. We didn't just observe them, we made them real.
The beautiful light beings were mere projections, false fronts crafted to deceive us. Behind their radiant robes lurked monstrosities beyond description, writhing masses of darkness, hunger, and malevolence. These entities were not our departed loved ones or benevolent guides, but predators of the most insidious kind. To our outright horror, we discovered these entities had spread across our world, unseen interdimensional parasites feeding off our consciousness. After attaching to a host, they manipulated the quantum field of human thought, whispering promises of our deepest desires, driving us to atrocities we could never have imagined on our own. They were connoisseurs of human suffering, clinging to their oblivious hosts. Some fed on rage, whispering justifications for our anger, amplifying every perceived slight until it burned white hot in our minds. But perhaps the most terrifying were those that subsisted on despair. They were patient predators, slowly eroding hope and joy until nothing remained but a vast, echoing void of misery. Then, the true horror unfolded before our eyes. The afterlife these beings had crafted for humanity was no paradise. It was a nightmare realm of endless torment.
All right, I want to go through like the rest of these really quick as possible. These are all reasons why everything has to be reset. We're at a point now where everything is a complete distortion of reality and truth. Nothing we think we know is true. Everything out of the media is lies. It's just like they're just telling you what they want you to think, what they want you to believe. People just believe whatever they see on TV or the internet. Not everybody, but a great majority of the masses. Entertainment can't even be entertainment anymore. There must be an agenda. So this is where people really started waking up with this woke stuff. It's like it's important to whoever runs this place, because these companies like Disney, for instance, just one of them, like, they're not stupid. They used to know like what people wanted. Like, this is what people want. This is what we can make that people will watch, and then we'll make money. Well, now they don't care about money anymore. They care about pushing the agenda. Even if they lose money out their nose, they don't stop. They don't stop ever. And now we've been forced into accepting it. Like, oh, you're being intolerant of people. I'm not being intolerant of anybody. I'm telling it how it is. All these things that I'm supposed to accept, these people would have never been into in the first place if it wasn't programmed into them through the media. We existed for a really long time without people having to think that they're dogs and they need some sort of pee pad because they got to pee like a dog instead of using the toilet like a human being. Okay, that's the level of freaking insanity that we're at now. And if you quantum jump yourself back to 1985, like I said before, try to imagine if like any of that stuff got shown to people in 1985, they would lose their freaking minds. Like, what in the world? Like, this is freaking nuts. This is what they're doing to people. Like, people think, oh, I'm just expressing myself. No, you're not. You were programmed to this. This didn't exist until it started getting pushed through media first. First. Okay, one thing I will say is like throughout history, yes, there have always been straight and gay people. Okay, some people are just born oriented a different direction. Okay, I'm excluding that. But all this stuff today, this craziness today, that didn't exist. And another thing with that, well, that's kind of in the next part, so we'll skip that. Like, I see it as things that have been done to people. And they've been taught and trained to, like, this is who I am. But this is like everyone is mind controlled on some level. Everyone is. But nobody, like, this is being done to us. And they're targeting like certain people in certain places. You don't see any of this stuff in China. Isn't that weird? So if this is just how people naturally are, why isn't it happening everywhere? No, it's targeting certain areas. It is the result of programming aimed at a particular population. And then education in general is just horrifying these days. Anyway, unknown forms of mass population mind control, another reason. So like I talk about like wokeism in the perpetually offended. Always the always offended people. I'm always pissed off. You're always offending me. They're never happy. They're never happy. They are in a constant, they're locked in a constant state, not fight or flight, just fight. I'm offended, I'm offended, I'm offended. You have to affirm my craziness. Fighting with everybody constantly. Nothing ever satisfies them. Like, this is not a healthy way to be. There's no happiness, there's no joy, there's no compassion. It's just tear down like whatever is considered normalcy and decent. Or just tear it apart and rub it in everyone's face and make them choke on it. And then the government protects them. There's your proof right there that it is an agenda aimed at a populace because these people are protected. In other countries, it's gotten to a point, I keep seeing videos, like if you don't play along with them, they'll arrest you. They'll arrest you. It's freaking insane. How did we get here? That tells you like who's behind it all right there. That is all the evidence you freaking need. So I see them as victims. Victims of freaking crazy. Well, first of all, you got to traumatize people before you can start implanting things. That's why we're always traumatized with stuff. It's just how it works. It's how mind control works. Look at, one thing that absolutely fascinates me is TDS. I mean, it's a real thing. Trump derangement syndrome. I watched that and I'm not pro anybody. I don't trust anybody. Seriously, but like what strikes me about that is because there's even people in my Facebook feed constantly going off about it. Let's time jump back to 1985 again. Okay. Actually, you can time jump back to like before 2008. It used to be that if things were not good in the country, it could be economic decline or something like that. It's just like too many wars, whatever. It used to be like when things weren't good, it was like a sure thing that people were going to vote the other party into power. They wanted things to change. But that is not the way things are today. Today, it's like they've got people programmed to hate one man so much, a man that used to be almost universally liked in the early days by everybody, using all sorts of movies and stuff like that until he started running against the system. But they hate this guy so much that they totally ignore the fact that we have practically collapsed in the last 4 years. The groceries have tripled. They don't put any accountability on the people that are actually in office. You just got to stop this one guy. That is insanity. That is programming. The fact that nobody votes anybody out anymore because things are bad. And then what happened the last time, I mean, they taught everyone, oh, he said this, he said that, he said this. Bottom line is like, this is a simple facts. I'm only using this because it's a great example of how they control people. The 4 years he was in office, like everything was the cheapest it had ever been. Everyone was doing great financially. Everything was cheap. Like groceries were cheap. Now they've tripled, quadrupled. Everyone's nastier. Like everything's going to shit. And people are like, we got to stop Trump. What happened? That is mind control. Look, this is the way it's always been up to this point. It's like when things aren't good, you get rid of the people running the show and you put new people in, not keep them in power. This ain't about left or right or you shouldn't have any sides if you're on this channel. You should be above that. This is another way they control you. But I'm just saying this demonstrates something. The other thing is it was around about the time, I want to say 2016, right before his election. That's when I first saw the hive mind. Like it didn't exist before then, but all of a sudden it was there. And I'm like, what in the world? It was like they flipped a switch or something. But all of a sudden you had this mass of people. Now I know that some of them weren't real. Like you had tons of bots and stuff online. But it's just like all of a sudden everybody just is like, new program accepted. I hate everything having to do with this stuff. It is not good. I believe everything that the TV tells me. And it was like this mass amount of the population all at once started doing this. I'd never seen anything like that in my life. I've never even heard about anything like that in my life. And it just got worse after that. Like this was the beginning of like massive changes in the world. But like what we're talking about in this video, it's the frog in the pot of boiling water. You turn the heat up slowly. and you don't notice that you're boiling to death. That's what's being done to us. Quantum jump back to 1985, and it's a completely different Earth. We are in a freaking lunatic asylum now. Everyone's addicted to the Black Mirror. Like, there's ways you can use it to not, I'm talking about TV, internet, smartphones. There's ways you can use it. And like, if you're doing stuff on, that's one thing rather than you're just constantly ingesting material. If you got TikTok brain, then I can't really help you. They've got things that we don't understand, but I've seen it. I've talked about it before. I've seen it at work twice. The first was the first day of the COVID panic when everyone was buying toilet paper, and I told that story before. I walked outside and it was like I could feel it. I could almost hear it. It was just like something was broadcasting fear, fear, fear. It's kind of like there's a scene in They Live where they got this little dish and it's going sleep, sleep. It was just like that. And I went in and I put on some empath shield stuff and then it was gone. I took it off and went back outside. There it was again. They were broadcasting something that was making people panic. And likewise, when the George Floyd thing happened, they were broadcasting things that were making people angry all over the world. Like, people were rioting in other countries about something that happened here that was highly suspect to begin with. Just watching that, I'm like, what the hell's going on here? This is nothing about this makes sense. But this is how they're manipulating people. And then the biggest thing that they programmed into people when the COVID thing happened that I don't think anyone's ever actually recovered from is everyone is your enemy. Everyone is an existential threat to your existence. That was the most devious thing they did with that. Before that, whenever before that, it was always like your responsibility to keep yourself healthy. But what they did then was they flipped it around and said, it's your responsibility to keep everyone else healthy. Therefore, you need to take the thing. And everyone should ostracize you. If you don't, you can lose your job. You can lose this, lose that, lose your right to travel. Like, this is insane. This is why this has to come. I'm trying to get you to see. I'm not trying to freak you out. Like, the world is what it is. But we need to see it for what it is so that we understand that this is not our home. This is not the way it's supposed to be. In that Mama Bear and company is coming to shut it down. And Papa Bear is going to get us out of here. And this is why. We're detailing the why. Why? These are the things that just people don't think about or want to think about. We'll wrap this up. Skip a lot of this, but the last big thing is, like, again, highly noticeable if you quantum jump back to 1985, but they have turbocharged, hypersexualized the whole world. I call it the sexual id entities. Promiscuity is up, porn addiction is up, abortion is birth control, marriage is a freaking joke. It's like, why do you even bother? Conception without love, that's what makes NPCs. That's what she told me. Someone has to feel love when you're conceived for you to be a light person. And then the whole pushing this agenda on kids, getting them to mutilate themselves permanently, that's insane. So, like, why can't we just say it? It's insane. It's freaking insane. Like, God just messed you up, but don't worry, we'll fix you. Like, I don't recognize this world anymore. Or maybe I never did, and now I am recognizing it. I have knowledge now. I have wisdom. This isn't the real world. This is nightmare world. And that's what apocalypse means, unveiling. Now everyone is starting to see that it's nightmare world. Before they got to pretend that it wasn't, but now they can't hide it anymore. They want you to see it. And that is also part of the higher plan. Because people do not change when they're comfortable. It's only at the brink of at the brink of your demise that people find the courage and the will to change, to evolve. That's what's being done to the whole world right now. And as bad as all that stuff I just rattled off is, there's levels of crazy that even I cannot predict that's coming. How much of that we're going to see, I don't know. Thankfully, I'm more focused on the stuff that I talked about in the beginning of the video, the dream, the stuff that she's showing me, the quantum jumping to the real world, remembering that in all that dark stuff that was in the remote viewing, like I need to find that video. I hate going through their stuff. It takes forever. But there was this one remote viewing where the guy's talking about all this bad stuff that's happening. And he's like, and then the scene changed and I see this town, like this landscape. It's like a postcard. It's like perfect. There's all these houses and it's just beautiful and it's perfect. I don't know what's going on with this, why I'm seeing this. But then I go back and I see all this doom and craziness. I knew exactly what he saw when he said it because she told me. He glimpsed the other earth, the uncorrupted, the place of life. See, that's where we belong, not here. This place is nuts. It's nuts with what we can see. But now factor in like that AI movie I just freaking showed you. That's there too. You just can't see it. For now, so this is not to make you feel despair, it's to make you understand. Like this is why we're leaving. It's time. When all these things happen, that's when you know it's time. That's when you get excited. Because don't forget, with all that bad stuff, there's still her. There's still Christ Sophia. Like I detailed here for a very, very long time, they're real. They're not like the authoritative church told you. They're way better. Like I know them. I've seen it. I've been through the part, like it's not a myth. It's not something someone just made up. I know it. I live with it. And I get to tell other people that it's real. Like there's hope. There's something more powerful than what this world is showing you. And that's what brought you here to hear this. You're only here. This is a big ass internet, but something brought you here. And that something is her. She's the one that brought you here. So don't forget what is in you is greater than what's in the world. Okay? We got to wrap this up. So if you like what we share here, you want to support our work, click on Buy Lumina Coffee in the description box. If you want to get any of our pendants, like I said, I've got a lot of pendants. I just don't have time to list them all. Just talk to me. We'll find you like I had someone the other day that bought like $400 worth of stuff and talked about what he needed. I listened to what she said. What she'll do is like she'll pick out a selection and then we'll show it to you and be like, okay, which ones these are the best ones that she suggests. Which one pulls to you the most? Like, it's a whole nother way of doing it to iron it out. And just contact us through the store, clemonCreations.etsy.com. Okay, well, that's all we got for right now. Keep your head on a swivel. Try that fourth dimensional grounding. Uh, keep seeking the light, because the light is seeking you. If you've got your head down and you're just like, I don't know if I can do this anymore, whatever, don't forget, you found this place. This place is hidden. Look at my video titles. Like, we don't have a bunch of this place is specifically not optimized to go big on YouTube. It's meant to be hidden. She brings you here. Whether you stay or not is up to you. So even if you can't do the kind of things that I can do, it still found you. It still brought you here. So things are going to go down soon. But I'm not focused on what the bad things are that are going to go down soon. I'm focused on the getting out of here. And now I'm starting to see signs of that. Like, that dream was, even though it didn't sound like much, the feeling of it was a lot. That's not something that I've ever dreamed before. Okay. So that's all we got for right now. Chris and Lumen. See you next time.